Imagine the earth trembling beneath thunderous roars. A steel horizon, endless rows of armored beasts kneeling behind tangled belts of barbed wire. Dust rises in swirling clouds. In the distance, a cold wind carrying a faint rumble. The thunder is coming. Tanks loom. Engines choke. Crews brace. Soldiers grip rifles, knuckles white. Every man knows. Once that first cannon fires, there's no turning back. What if I told you one shot, one moment, could decide the fate of entire armies? What if losing focus for even a breath meant obliteration? You stand on the ridgeline, the air tastes of fear and oil, a silent heartbeat. Then, a flash, a shot. Ground shakes, smoke, chaos. You see a hull cut in half. A turret stands alone like a broken tooth. You smell burnt cordite. Now imagine that multiplied by thousands. Welcome, history warriors, I'm Knightley. You're about to witness history like never before. Next, we travel to summer 1943, to the steppes of Kursk, where empires clashed and steel thundered across the earth. Summer 1943. The vast wheat fields and open steppes west of the Russian city of Kursk, two massive powers locked in mortal struggle, the German Wehrmacht and the Soviet Red Army, the Eastern Front, a brutal war of attrition. After years of bitter fighting, frozen winters, hot summers, cities in ruin, both sides were drained, wounded, desperate. The Germans sought a decisive blow, a crushing victory to regain initiative. The Soviets aimed to stem the tide, defend their homeland, and cripple the German war machine once and for all. At stake, territory, momentum, morale, perhaps even the future of cities, families, entire nations. And here, on this wide-open battlefield, both sides prepared for a collision unlike any before, the largest armored battle in history. But before disaster unfolded, the calm stretched, uneasy, pregnant, foreboding. The Germans arrived in spring 1943, two armies strong. Their objective, encircle and cut off the Soviet salient at Kursk. Spearhead thrusts from north and south, a pincer. Cut off the Soviets, encircle thousands. Break their back, regain the initiative. Simple in theory. But the terrain, the defenses, the enemy, anything but simple. Leading this thrust was a seasoned commander, cold and methodical, aware that precision, timing, and surprise would determine success. On the other side stood Soviet commanders, resolute, determined men hardened by years of defense, ready to bleed for every mile of their homeland. Each man carried the weight of millions. The Germans amassed their elite armored divisions, Panthers, PZK-PFW Pfeifers, Tiger tanks, steel monsters with thick armor, powerful guns, thirsty engines. They studied terrain maps, calculated routes, supply lines. They rehearsed. They sharpened their edge. The Soviets dug in. They constructed belts of defensive fortifications, trenches, minefields, anti-tank ditches, hidden gun emplacements. In forests and fields, they scattered obstacles to stop rolling steel cold. Engineers worked at night. Artillery units sighted coordinates. Infantry trained in overlapping fields of fire. Reconnaissance scouted constantly. Beyond defense, they prepared a counter-strike. Their T-34 tanks, lighter yet fast and reliable, were waiting in reserve. Mechanized corps ready to surge the moment the enemy overcommitted. Logistics, supply lines rumbled with fuel, ammo, spare parts. Railcars delivered endless columns of shells. Field kitchens churned. Every man, every machine, every bullet, scheduled, synchronized, prepared. The tension tightened. In the silence, you could almost hear the metal mice creeping across terrain on rubber pads of tracks. Now, days before battle, the final orders whispered in hushed tones. The final movements, the final breath before fate, silence before the storm. Battle begins, dawn. A low mist hovers over the Kursk salient. The first shells whistle across fields. German tanks emerge from forests, steel glinting, engines roaring. Infantry moves behind them, rifles tight, eyes scanning for shadows. Anti-tank guns open fire. A shell hits a Panther. Smoke curls like a black serpent. Tanks swerve, tracks churn mud, guns fire. Soldiers duck, scramble, roll across trenches. The sky vibrates with the drone of Stukas, diving in screeching arcs. Artillery booms in rhythm with the heartbeats of men on both sides. The ground shakes, the earth itself trembles. One misstep, one hesitation, and destruction waits. The first contact erupts. Gunfire rattles metal. The smell of cordite fills the air. The deafening chaos grows, pulling everyone into its maw. The German northern pincer meets Soviet defenses. Mines explode under tank treads. Barbed wire tangles tracks. Infantry fire from foxholes, unseen but deadly. Every advance costs. Every retreat costs more. And yet, the steel tide presses forward. The southern pincer waits, unseen, unheard, ready to strike. In the south, T-34s wait like coiled springs. Soviet commanders glance at maps, eyes sharp, calculating. Then, movement. German armor rolls toward the defensive belts. Anti-tank guns open fire. Shells slam into turrets. Tracks are shredded. Tanks topple like giant puppets. Machine guns rattle. Smoke swirls. Soldiers charge, ducking and weaving through chaos. Infantry clashes. Hand-to-hand struggle sometimes unavoidable. Shouts, orders, grunts, lost in the roar. Above, the sky is alive. Stuka dive bombers scream down, then vanish behind clouds. AA guns flare, tracer streaks tearing through the mist. One bomber down, another hits its mark. Fire erupts on both sides. The northern front stutters. Progress slows. Momentum wavers. Commanders shout into radios. Confusion reigns. Every decision is split-second. Every second counts. And somewhere in the southern fields, a Tiger tank roars, its gun sweeping toward a thin line of Soviet defenders. The first real breakthrough, or the first crushing failure, hangs in the balance. The northern forests become a deadly maze. Panzer IVs weave between trenches. Mines detonate beneath, flipping armor like toys. Soviet artillery pounds from hidden batteries. Mortar fire hammers the edges. Smoke obscures vision. Commands are shouted, repeated, sometimes unheard. A Tiger rolls forward. Its gun a long, deadly eye. A Soviet T-34 counters, shell impacting armor. Sparks fly. Crew braces. The tank shudders. A second T-34 joins. Maneuvering is brutal. Every movement met with resistance. Infantry in foxholes hurl grenades, sweep rifles. Engineers scramble to clear mines. Chaos everywhere. The battlefield is a living organism, shifting, breathing, crushing all in its path. From the horizon, reinforcements arrive. Armor, men, supplies, endless, grinding, relentless. Somewhere a German commander grits his teeth. Progress is slower than predicted. The plan, the pincer, the encirclement, hangs by a thread. And then the southern front explodes into action. Southward, fields of wheat and mud are suddenly scarred by explosions. Tigers roar, panthers advance. T-34s dart between shell craters, firing as they go. Mines rip apart tracks. Artillery shakes the ground. Smoke and fire obscure visibility. Soviet commanders issue rapid counter-orders. Flank left. Reinforce center. Pull back. Soldiers obey, sometimes too late. Tanks fire at unseen targets. Tracks grind mud. Infantry run, crawl, fire. A shell hits a supply column. Flames leap. Ammo detonates. Men scatter. Above, aircraft dive and climb. Engines screaming. Tracer rounds crossing the skies like deadly fireworks. A German panzer regiment pushes forward, only to meet a Soviet ambush from a hidden ridge. The clash becomes a test of endurance. Every second, men and machines burn energy, patience, hope. The field seems endless, yet every inch matters. A crucial ridge, contested, bloodied, and pivotal, will soon decide the day's momentum. The ridge, a subtle rise in the earth, unnoticed by many, but strategically vital. Both sides recognize it. German tanks aim to seize it. Soviet artillery is ready to stop them. Panthers advance first, their guns scanning, engines growling. Mines detonate, tracks are shredded. Infantry provides covering fire. Soviet T-34s counterattack, moving fast, disappearing behind smoke, firing into weak points. Shells explode, dust rises, vision obscured. From behind, reinforcements arrive. A Soviet mechanized corps bursts onto the scene. Surprise. German armor falters. Commanders shout orders, reposition units, calculate risk. The ridge changes hands, not once, not twice, but in a deadly rhythm, a push and pull. Nearby, medics move silently, carrying the wounded through mud and rubble. Engineers attempt to repair damaged armor under fire. Every decision matters. Every misstep is fatal. As the ridge rages, the battle intensifies and something unexpected emerges from the skies. Aircraft appear. Soviet Il-2 Sturmovix dive, guns blazing. German flak responds, tracer fire cutting arcs through smoke. Tanks duck behind ridges, infantry dives for cover. Explosions mark the landing of bombs. Fire spreads, metal bends, men scream orders. A Panther is hit. Its crew survives but must retreat. Another Tiger strikes a T-34. Armor sparks. Chaos reigns. Commanders attempt to coordinate amid fog and smoke, artillery and air all converging. Communications falter. Radios crackle with fragmented messages. The battlefield becomes a cacophony. Noise, fire, dust, commands shouted in desperation. Yet, neither side yields. Each tank, each soldier, each gun is a testament to endurance and discipline. The ridge remains contested. Neither side claims it fully. Momentum is a knife edge, swaying back and forth, unpredictable, brutal. In the north, an unexpected counterstrike threatens to tip the balance. Northern Front. A Soviet mechanized corps surges from hidden reserves. Tanks roll forward, guns firing, infantry sprinting alongside. German lines, stretched, fatigued, vulnerable, are suddenly pressed. Tiger and Panther units attempt to hold, but mines and ambushes slow them. Smoke, dust and fire envelop the battlefield. One misjudged maneuver, a tank bogged down, exposes a flank. Soviet gunners seize the moment. Shells hit armor weak points, crew braces, tracks twist. Above, aircraft scream, dive and vanish. The northern pincer begins to stall under relentless Soviet pressure. Commanders adjust, reposition, but the tempo is unforgiving. Every man feels the pulse of the battle, the rhythm of destruction and survival. The battlefield is alive, shifting, unpredictable. A German commander makes a desperate, bold decision that could change everything. The German commander orders concentrated fire, a risky maneuver but potentially decisive. Tanks converge on a Soviet ridge, overlapping fields of fire. Artillery pounds forward positions. Mines detonate. Smoke clouds the battlefield. Soviet commanders react instantly, repositioning units, sending reserves into exposed gaps. Tanks clash. Infantry runs, takes cover, fights. Every second counts, every shot matters. Momentum wavers, swings, teeters. The field seems endless, yet every inch is hard fought. The thunder of engines, the flash of cannons, the cries of men, a symphony of war in harsh minor chords. And then, from the west, a flanking Soviet unit emerges, hidden, silent, ready to strike. The battle is no longer just a clash of tanks. It becomes a test of wits, courage and endurance. And soon, the turning point will arrive. The western flank moves silently at first, then erupts. Soviet tanks appear like ghosts, striking German armor where it's weakest. A Panther hits a mine, turret frozen, crew scrambling. Tigers pivot, guns swinging, seeking targets in smoke and dust. Infantry races through craters, weaving between shells, grenades thudding into mud, artillery hammers, cratering fields, hurling debris into the air. One shell lands on a German command post, papers fly, radios spark, officers leap to safety. The tide begins to shift. Momentum is a fragile thread. Every decision, pull back, push forward, fire, hold, becomes an agonizing gamble. Above, aircraft dive again. Il-2s roar down, bombs scatter, tracer fire arcs across the sky. A Tiger catches a direct hit but doesn't fall. Sparks flare, engines scream. Every second, the battlefield changes. Every breath counts. And then, the southern advance falters unexpectedly. Southward, German armor meets the heaviest Soviet defenses yet. Mines, trenches, hidden anti-tank guns tear into advancing columns. A Panther rolls onto a ridge, then vanishes in an explosion. Smoke rises, obscuring vision. T-34s dash through shell-cratered fields, firing as they move, disappearing behind rubble, reappearing like phantoms. Infantry pours fire into exposed flanks. Machine guns chatter. Grenades erupt. Every step forward costs dearly. German commanders shout into radios. Coordination is fragmented. Momentum disrupted. Officers make split-second calls, repositioning units under duress. Engineers risk everything to clear paths for armor. The southern pincers' advance slows, stalling under relentless defense. Supply lines are stretched thin, fuel scarce. Morale flickers. Commanders adjust strategy, but the battlefield is fluid, merciless, unpredictable. Suddenly, a massive armored counterattack in the north threatens to cut through the German lines entirely. In the north, Soviet mechanized corps charge with precision. Tanks advance, guns blazing, infantry sprinting behind. Mines detonate. Smoke obscures vision. One Tiger flanks a T-34, only to be ambushed by hidden artillery. Tracks shred, engines roar, crew scrambles. Commanders shout, reposition, risk everything. Momentum teeters. Air support dives overhead. Stukas and Il-2s streak across sky, tracer rounds cutting arcs. The battlefield becomes a chessboard of steel. Every push met with countermove, every advance countered. A German officer orders concentrated fire, risking overextension. Soviet commanders respond with equal daring, moving reserves to unexpected gaps. Every man, every tank, every shell becomes decisive. On the southern ridge, another clash is about to erupt, one that will decide the day's momentum. The southern ridge is aflame. Tigers and Panthers fire into Soviet lines, T-34s counterattack, darting between craters and smoke. Infantry scrambles, weaving through chaos, grenades thudding into earth, rifles rattling. Artillery pounds forward positions. Mines explode under advancing armor. Smoke curls into the sky, obscuring every movement. Commanders shout over engines and explosions, desperate to maintain cohesion. A Panther hits a T-34 directly. Metal shudders, crew braces. Another Tiger maneuvers into cover, only to find another Soviet tank waiting. Chaos and precision entwine. Supply columns burn. Soldiers push ammo forward under fire. Every moment tests courage, endurance, and ingenuity. And then the German southern commander makes a risky call, one that could change everything. The call: concentrate all armor into a single push to seize the ridge. Risky, exposed, potentially decisive. Tanks roll forward, engines screaming, guns firing. Mines detonate, infantry ducks, artillery pounds forward positions. Soviet commanders anticipate, sending reinforcements into gaps, flanking columns appearing unexpectedly. Tanks clash, turret against turret, armor against armor. Sparks fly, metal screams. Above, aircraft dive, bomb, and disappear. Smoke and tracer fire mingle, creating a living hell of sound, fire, and fury. The ridge becomes a seesaw of steel, seized, lost, reclaimed. Every maneuver, every shot, every second matters. In the north, Soviet forces identify a weak point and exploit it with brutal efficiency. Northern German lines falter. Soviet mechanized units exploit a gap, striking at supply columns and infantry behind front lines. Tanks fire into exposed flanks, grenades explode in trenches. Commanders shout, reposition, risk overextension. Momentum shifts. German units scramble, trying to plug gaps. Artillery hammers from both sides. Smoke, fire, dust, and noise dominate. A Panther flounders in a crater. T-34s close in. Crews brace, fire, maneuver. Every inch is contested. Every second is survival. The battlefield teeters on a knife edge, and now a weather shift adds a new layer of chaos. A sudden summer storm rolls in. Rain slicks mud, visibility drops. Shells hiss into wet earth. Tanks skid, infantry slips, equipment falters. The ground becomes treacherous. German officers curse. Soviet commanders adjust. Artillery becomes harder to aim. Mines are hidden beneath wet soil. The storm masks movement but also hides danger. Engines roar, guns fire, men fight in the driving rain. Momentum swings unpredictably. One misstep, one misfire, disaster. The ridge, the flanks, the field, all are shrouded in smoke, rain, chaos. Somewhere in this storm, a bold Soviet maneuver begins. one that will define the battle's turning point. Hidden reserves surge. Soviet T-34s and infantry strike where German armor is thinned. Mines and anti-tank guns shred columns, but the assault is relentless. Tigers pivot, Panthers fire, but gaps remain. Commanders shout orders over rain and cannon fire. Infantry advances, retreats, adapts. Engineers repair what they can. Medics rush through mud, carrying the wounded. The battlefield becomes a dance of fire and steel, strategy and instinct. One flank begins to collapse, the other holds barely. Every commander, every soldier, every tank feels the pulse of war. The first day's chaos continues into night, but momentum is changing, quietly, decisively. The turning point. The dawn after the storm brings a fragile calm. Mud clings to every boot, every tread. Smoke still curls from wrecked armor. The field, scarred by yesterday's chaos, seems endless. But beneath the surface, movements stir. Soviet commanders, watching, waiting, seize the first opportunity. They have noticed a weakness in the German northern flank, a thin line where supply columns overextended, armor gaps widened. A bold order is issued: concentrated attack. T-34s, lighter, faster, surge forward through rain-slicked fields. Infantry follows, crawling, running, firing. Every second, German commanders reassess, recalibrate, hoping to plug the gap. One misstep could unravel the entire northern advance. Momentum teeters. The first decisive strike of the turning point is imminent. At 09 mere hours, Soviet artillery begins a rhythmic hammering. Targeted fire, precise and deadly, disrupts German coordination. Tanks attempt to advance, but mines and craters turn every movement into a gamble. In the chaos, a Tiger regiment attempts a counterattack. The ground is treacherous, engines choke in mud. A T-34 fires from hidden cover, track shredded, turret immobilized. Crew scrambles, the German line shudders. Commanders on both sides feel the shift. One historian later remarked, "The northern flank crumbled not with noise, but with calculation, patience, and relentless pressure." German high command orders reinforcements, but it may already be too late. Southern Ridge. The German push continues but falters. Supply columns struggle through mud. Panthers bog down. Infantry fights desperately, but Soviet defenses hold. Mines, trenches, overlapping fields of fire bleed German armor. Then, a Soviet mechanized corps flanks the southern edge. Tanks roar through hidden paths, striking where Germans least expect. Communication breaks down. Orders are shouted, repeated, sometimes unheard. The southern pincer, once poised for decisive encirclement, falters. Commanders realize the battle will not be won by brute force alone. Northern gains amplify southern pressure. The battle shifts from static fighting to a dynamic struggle for initiative. By mid-morning, the tide turns unmistakably. German units in the north are under heavy fire. T-34s exploit every gap. Engineers rush to repair damaged tanks, but artillery tears through repair points. Infantry fights desperately to cover armor, but Soviet counterattacks press relentlessly. Commanders make rapid decisions, pull back, consolidate, attempt to break through elsewhere. The battlefield is a living organism. One side falters, the other advances. "Victory," a German officer later wrote, "was slipping like sand through our fingers." In the south, the ridge becomes a crucible. Every decision will either stabilize the front or accelerate collapse. The ridge. Explosions churn the mud. Tanks from both sides clash turret against turret. Infantry dashes between craters, grenades and gunfire creating a deafening rhythm. Then Soviet reinforcements arrive unexpectedly. Engineers clear paths for armor. Infantry fills gaps in trenches. German armor, exhausted, bogged, begins to stall. Commanders attempt desperate maneuvers, but momentum has shifted. Above, aircraft dive unpredictably, strafing and bombing, further tilting the scale. One decisive maneuver on this ridge will signal the true turning point. A Soviet mechanized corps executes a pincer movement. From hidden valleys and shell craters, T-34s strike German flanks. Mines explode, armor falters, and infantry is caught in deadly crossfire. German commanders attempt a counter-thrust, but coordination collapses under relentless pressure. Communications are fragmented, reinforcements arrive too late. The battlefield, chaotic and smoky, reflects the tension. The pivot has arrived. One tiger is immobilized, another retreats. Entire regiments teeter on collapse. The northern success now amplifies the southern crisis. The German offensive, once precise, begins to unravel. By noon, German forces face multiple threats: northern collapse, southern resistance, unpredictable weather, and relentless Soviet counterattacks. Commanders shout, recalibrate, redeploy. Tanks shift positions, infantry scrambles, artillery hammers forward positions. Every second counts. Every mistake costs. Momentum swings like a pendulum. Soldiers on both sides feel exhaustion gnawing, yet the fight rages, relentless, decisive. A historian later summarized, Kursk was no longer a battle of advance and defense. It became a war of attrition, executed with precision, patience, and audacity. The southern ridge braces for the moment that will define the battle. The ridge. Soviet forces, sensing the German vulnerability, unleash concentrated fire. Tanks surge, infantry presses, mines tear through tracks, artillery pounds every attempted advance. German officers order overlapping fields of fire, desperate to stem the tide. Panthers fire, tigers pivot, but gaps remain. Commanders issue repeated frantic orders. The ridge, the battlefield's focal point, now shifts definitively. German units retreat, reform, advance, retreat again. Chaos interwoven with strategy. Northern exploitation and southern collapse converge. The turning point approaches its zenith. Northern German units begin an organized withdrawal to more defensible positions. Supply lines disrupted, armor reduced, infantry exhausted. Soviet forces push, harrying, targeting weak points. Commanders attempt to rally their troops, coordinate artillery, and salvage momentum. One misstep, one poorly timed maneuver. Disaster. Weather and mud compound challenges. Visibility is low, traction poor, tanks bog, infantry slips. Yet the Soviet advance is relentless. The southern ridge sees its own decisive moment, a concentrated assault that will end the German pincer threat. Afternoon, southern ridge. Soviet tanks, supported by infantry, strike at overlapping German positions. Mines, trenches, and shell craters are navigated with tactical precision. German armor falters, reinforcements are delayed. Commanders shout frantic orders. Units shift positions. Panthers, tigers, panzers. Every armored unit struggles under relentless assault. A sudden breakthrough in the ridge exposes flanks. German forces attempt to plug gaps. Soviet commanders exploit openings with rapid, coordinated strikes. The southern pincer collapses from within. The offensive loses cohesion. Across the battlefield, German units struggle to adapt as the turning point solidifies. Evening falls. Northern success and southern collapse converge. German commanders are forced into defensive postures. Tanks retreat under fire. Infantry digs in where possible. Artillery desperately covers gaps. Soviet forces maintain pressure, exploiting every weakness. Engineers repair and reposition. Medics evacuate the wounded. Supply lines are patched, then broken again by relentless attacks. Commanders assess the strategic initiative has shifted. What was once an offensive is now a defense. Tenuous, reactive, desperate. As night approaches, the battlefield is quieting, but the decisive results of the turning point are clear. The first full day of the turning point concludes. German forces are checked. Soviet units gain momentum. The ridge, the flanks, the salient, all tell a story of calculation, audacity, and relentless pressure. Historians note, Kursk's pivot was the triumph of preparation meeting opportunity. Commanders' bold decisions, quick reactions, and timing decide not just a single day, but the fate of the offensive. The battlefield remains scarred, noisy, chaotic, but the tide has turned. Momentum has shifted irreversibly. Next, aftermath and consequences, where we measure the cost and impact of Kursk's turning point. Aftermath and consequences. The battlefield is quiet now, but its scars are indelible. Trenches filled with shattered earth, craters deep and smoldering, twisted metal glinting under a pale sun. Tracks of tanks mark the mud like scars on the earth itself. Smoke drifts lazily across fields, once alive with fury. Both sides assess the cost. German units, once advancing with precision, have been checked, slowed, and forced onto the defensive. Supply lines disrupted, armored units reduced, infantry exhausted. The offensive, designed to encircle, now faces a resolute, prepared opponent. The Soviets, battered but undaunted, hold their lines and now possess momentum. Mines cleared, reserves intact, artillery redeployed. The battlefield has shifted under their control. Commanders walk among men and machines, surveying destruction and survival. One can feel the weight of hours, days, and decisions pressing down. And yet, numbers and losses tell only part of the story. Equipment losses are staggering but cannot fully capture the scale. Tanks destroyed, immobilized, or abandoned line every field. Artillery units reduced, shells spent, rails damaged. Infantry is worn, fatigued, yet determination remains. Historians estimate hundreds of German armored vehicles disabled, dozens of artillery batteries neutralized. Soviet losses are also significant, yet reserves and production allow rapid replacement. The battlefield is a grim testament to preparation meeting resistance. Morale is affected differently. German troops expecting decisive victory face frustration and exhaustion. Soviet soldiers, having held lines and repelled assaults, experience a surge of confidence and strategic optimism. The human factor is decisive. Experience, endurance, and adaptive leadership shape outcomes as much as firepower. The ripple effect of these losses is felt far beyond Kursk. Territorial impact is clear. The Kursk salient remains contested but unbroken. The German advance stalls. No encirclement achieved. Soviet forces maintain control of key ridges, villages, and supply points. Strategically, the initiative has shifted. German forces, previously dictating pace, now react. Soviet commanders gain flexibility, reinforcing positions or launching calculated counterstrikes. The front lines stabilize, but with newfound momentum favoring the defender. On both sides, logistical recalculations dominate planning rooms. Fuel, ammunition, and manpower are scrutinized. Resupply becomes paramount, and commanders adjust strategy to reflect battlefield reality. These shifts in initiative carry profound long-term consequences. Morale, both military and civilian, reflects the battle's outcome. German troops anticipating rapid victory grapple with fatigue, uncertainty, and the psychological weight of stalled progress. Leadership addresses discipline, orders reinforce cohesion, but tension is palpable. For the Soviet forces, victory is both defensive and symbolic. Holding the salient demonstrates preparation, patience, and tactical mastery. Soldiers gain confidence. Commanders validate their meticulous defensive planning. Civilians in nearby villages, witnessing smoke and movement from afar, feel the gravity of armored warfare. They anticipate the human cost, the toll on towns, farmland, and futures. The human story intertwines with the military. Kursk is as much a test of endurance as of firepower. Commanders assess performance under fire. German generals note the limits of their strategy. Precision attacks, rapid armor advances, and encirclements require uninterrupted momentum, which Kursk's defenses prevent. Soviet commanders analyze their own success, depth of defense, integration of infantry, armor, artillery, and reserves, and use of terrain all prove decisive. Adaptive planning, rapid communication, and resilience demonstrate that preparation can outweigh raw power. Lessons echo beyond the immediate battle. Coordination, flexibility, and intelligence are just as critical as numbers and firepower. Beyond tactics, the strategic picture of the Eastern Front is reshaping. The battle's aftermath affects operational planning across the front. German forces reconsider offensive plans. Attrition has slowed future operations. Armored divisions require refit, fuel and ammunition stockpiles must be replenished, and morale management becomes a priority. Soviet forces, emboldened, prepare for calculated counteroffensives. Logistic networks, artillery positioning, and mechanized reserves are reorganized. Intelligence reports feed into increasingly aggressive planning. Kursk proves the importance of preparation and foresight. Defensive strategy, combined with flexible reserves, can blunt even the most powerful attacks. And yet, casualties, men and machines, continue to tell a sobering story. Human cost is immense, but should be measured with respect. Thousands of men experience exhaustion, injuries, and dislocation. Both sides confront fatigue, psychological strain, and the reality of survival amidst chaos. Mechanized and infantry units alike suffer attrition, replacements arrive, but experience is irreplaceable. Commanders lament lost expertise and the physical toll on men. Yet courage and resilience persist. Medics, engineers, and supply personnel work tirelessly amid danger. Soldiers adapt, improvise, and endure. The battlefield becomes a testament to both sacrifice and endurance. Kursk marks a decisive shift in armored warfare. The effectiveness of deep-layered defenses demonstrates that careful planning can counter overwhelming force. Mines, trenches, anti-tank positions, and hidden reserves prove that terrain, preparation, and patience can dictate outcomes. For German commanders, the lesson is stark. Unrelenting offensive power cannot guarantee success against prepared defenses. Coordination and timing are as critical as raw strength. For Soviet strategists, Kursk validates integration of combined arms. Infantry, armor, artillery, and air power operating cohesively. Yet the consequences extend beyond the battlefield. Strategic and psychological reverberations shape the Eastern Front. German High Command reevaluates priorities. Future operations must account for slowed momentum, attrition, and increased defensive strength. Strategic reserves, operational timelines, and reinforcement routes are reconsidered. The battle demonstrates that offensive doctrine cannot ignore logistics, terrain, and prepared defenses. Lessons from Kursk influence all subsequent operations in the East. Soviet High Command, confident yet cautious, strengthens coordination across fronts. Armored units are rotated, artillery repositioned, and intelligence refined to exploit weaknesses. Kursk's lessons are recorded not just in maps and reports, but in doctrine and strategy for years to come. Territorial shifts are subtle but significant. The salient remains in Soviet hands. Villages and ridges critical to movement and supply are retained. German forces cannot exploit previous gains. This stability allows the Red Army to consolidate, fortify, and prepare for future operations. The Eastern Front's momentum begins to favor the defender. Logistical and operational planning adjusts to reflect these outcomes. Supply lines, rail networks, and armored divisions are repositioned in anticipation of future offensives. Momentum, lost by one side, gained by another, reshapes the war's trajectory. Strategic consequences ripple beyond the battlefield. German forces, anticipating offensive advantage, now react to Soviet initiatives. Soviet planners, emboldened, prepare to seize initiative permanently. Morale, momentum, and perception shift. Kursk is no longer a single battle. It is a pivot point, demonstrating the limits of offensive strategy against prepared defenses and the advantages of coordination, reserves, and intelligence. Historians later write, Kursk altered the balance in the East, signaling a new phase of initiative for the Soviets. And yet reflection reveals lessons not only in strategy, but in leadership, logistics, and technology. As smoke lifts, the battlefield stands scarred but instructive. Armor abandoned, artillery positions tested, infantry weary yet resolute. Both sides reflect, regroup, and prepare for the next phase of conflict. The human cost is sobering. The strategic impact is undeniable. Momentum has shifted, initiative changes hands, and doctrine is rewritten. Kursk becomes more than a battle. It is a lesson in patience, preparation, and the brutal calculus of war. Next, reflection and analysis, where the experts dissect leadership, logistics, and technological mastery in the Battle of Kursk. Kursk was more than a clash of steel. It was a crucible of strategy, leadership, and preparation. The battle showcased that success in war is not dictated solely by numbers, nor by the roar of engines, but by coordination, timing, and adaptive thinking. German commanders, seasoned and disciplined, executed brilliant plans, yet their doctrine depended on continuous momentum, rapid decision-making, and unbroken initiative. When faced with carefully prepared defenses, their strengths became liabilities. Soviet commanders, anticipating the German approach, demonstrated meticulous planning. Defensive depth, combined with flexible reserves and integrated forces, proved decisive. The meticulous layering of obstacles, artillery, and mechanized counterattacks transformed the battlefield into a strategic trap. The lessons of preparation and patience resonate far beyond Kursk. Leadership was tested at every level. German officers grappled with fractured communications, overextended units, and the unpredictability of terrain and weather. Decisions had to be immediate. Hesitation cost ground, momentum, and lives. Soviet commanders demonstrated a different mastery. Observation, analysis, and patience were paramount. Small tactical decisions, shifting reserves, repositioning artillery, exploiting weak points, had disproportionate effects on the battlefield. Historians often highlight Kursk as a proof of layered command and initiative. Tactical agility under pressure trumped brute force. Beyond leadership, logistics dictated the ebb and flow of combat. Logistics defined the battle's limits. German armored columns depended on fuel, ammunition, and repair supplies moving flawlessly. The mud, rain, and continuous counterattacks disrupted these supply lines. Panthers and Tigers, formidable on maps, were vulnerable to mechanical failure and attrition without proper support. Soviet forces relied on resilience and redundant supply chains. Rail networks, field repair units, and mobile artillery allowed units to sustain pressure despite losses. Tanks disabled by mines were often quickly repaired or replaced. In war, preparation often outweighs raw firepower. Kursk proves logistics are as decisive as tactical skill. Technology, too, played a pivotal role in shaping outcomes. The clash of armor revealed the limits and advantages of technology. German tanks, Panthers and Tigers, were heavily armored, powerful, and intimidating. Yet their size, fuel consumption, and maintenance needs limited mobility. T-34s, lighter but more agile, exploited these weaknesses effectively. Weapon systems targeting optics and armor thickness dictated engagements. Mines, anti-tank guns, and artillery further offset technological advantages. Kursk demonstrated that technology alone does not guarantee victory. Integration into strategy, terrain awareness, and support systems are crucial. Combat technology interacts with tactics in ways that redefine battlefield possibilities. Combined arms coordination became decisive. Infantry, armor, artillery, and air support had to operate as a single organism. German doctrine emphasized armor spearheads. Soviet forces integrated reserves, artillery, and mechanized infantry to amplify defensive power. The timing of reinforcements, the positioning of anti-tank batteries, and the use of terrain multiplied effectiveness. Each tactical unit was a link in a chain. Break one link, and momentum falters. Kursk illustrated that cohesion, not just firepower, determines success. Analysis of the terrain reveals why preparation outweighed raw force. The Kursk salient itself shaped the battle. Wide-open steppes allowed armored maneuver, yet ridges, forests, and villages provided defensive advantages. Mines and anti-tank positions utilized terrain to maximize effect. German forces underestimated this complexity. Soviet planners exploited the landscape to channel attacks into kill zones, slow momentum, and create opportunities for counterattacks. Terrain combined with layered defenses converted potential chaos into controlled battlefield advantage. Preparation trumped audacity in the fields of Kursk. Strategic patience proved as vital as tactical execution. Patience and timing dictated the turning point. German commanders sought immediate decisive action, yet the Soviets mastered delayed engagement and concentrated response. Reserves were held in depth, ready to strike where weaknesses appeared. This temporal advantage amplified the effect of each tactical move. Every counterattack, every artillery strike, every concealed T-34 became decisive. Kursk teaches that measured action, grounded in reconnaissance and intelligence, can alter outcomes far beyond brute force. Intelligence and anticipation were critical determinants. Information shaped decisions. Reconnaissance identified weak points. Intercepted communications revealed intentions. German movements were observed and anticipated, allowing Soviet forces to pre-position artillery, mines, and mechanized reserves. Commanders leveraged intelligence to orchestrate layered defenses, anticipating enemy behavior amplified the efficacy of relatively smaller forces. Awareness and prediction turned the battlefield into a controlled environment despite chaos. Adaptability and initiative distinguished commanders and troops alike. Adaptability emerged as a decisive skill. German units, facing unexpected resistance and terrain challenges, were forced to improvise, but rigid doctrine limited options. Soviet units adapted fluidly, exploiting gaps, shifting forces, and coordinating across arms. Experience, discipline, and tactical flexibility turned every setback into opportunity. Kursk underscores the advantage of adaptive command in dynamic conditions. Leadership extended beyond the generals to every soldier and crew. The human factor, courage, decision-making, and endurance, was decisive. Tank crews, infantry units, and artillery operators performed under relentless pressure, mud, rain, and smoke. Decisions made in seconds, when to fire, move, or retreat, often decided life and death and shaped broader outcomes. The battlefield rewarded initiative, discipline, and cohesion at every level. Kursk reminds us that wars are fought not just by machines, but by people, thinking, adapting, enduring. Long-term lessons of Kursk reverberated across subsequent operations. Strategically, Kursk shifted the Eastern Front. German forces, previously dominant in maneuver, now faced attrition, fortified defenses, and reduced initiative. Soviet forces gained momentum, validating integrated defensive doctrine and operational patience. Subsequent campaigns reflected these lessons. Reserves in depth, layered defenses, combined arms, and intelligence integration became central. Kursk became a template for defensive operations and counter-offensive planning. Yet technology, logistics, and terrain remained inseparable from leadership in determining outcomes. Ultimately, Kursk demonstrates the convergence of preparation, planning, and execution. Leadership at all levels, intelligence, tactical innovation, logistics, and technological integration formed a web of decisive factors. Victory and loss were not solely defined by numbers or firepower, but by foresight, adaptability, and coordination. Kursk's lessons echo across modern military doctrine. Initiative, patience, and precision outweigh brute strength when forces collide under chaos and uncertainty. Next, epic closing, where the story comes full circle and history speaks directly to the audience. The wind whispers across the scarred fields of Kursk. Craters yawn where armor met earth, the soil churned by relentless wheels, tracks etched into mud like a history carved in steel. The sun, pale and cold, glints off twisted metal, the remnants of tanks that once thundered across the landscape. Imagine standing there amid the silence that follows chaos, feeling the pulse of the battlefield long after guns have fallen silent. The smell of smoke still hangs in the air, a lingering reminder of strategy, courage, and endurance. Soldiers, exhausted yet resolute, sift through mud and wreckage, reflecting on decisions that shaped life, death, and the course of nations. Kursk was more than the clash of tanks. It was a test of leadership and foresight. German commanders, daring and disciplined, encountered the limits of momentum and overextension. Soviet forces, meticulously prepared, patient and adaptive, turned defense into decisive victory. Every mine, every artillery strike, every maneuver reflected planning, coordination, and human ingenuity. The battle reshaped the Eastern Front. Initiative shifted, morale changed, and the tempo of the war was forever altered. Kursk demonstrated that victory is rarely brute force alone. Preparation, strategy, and adaptability can turn the tide against overwhelming odds. It reminds us that every moment on the battlefield matters, that every second, every decision, every action carries weight. Yet, beyond strategy and steel, Kursk is a testament to the human spirit. Crews braved fire and mud, infantry endured relentless pressure, and commanders orchestrated chaos into coordinated action. It is a story of resilience, courage, and the relentless pursuit of mastery under impossible conditions. History speaks not just of tanks and artillery, but of the lessons they leave behind. Patience, foresight, and adaptation echo through every subsequent campaign, every planning room, every strategy map. Kursk is a reminder that war is as much about intellect as it is about power. as much about anticipation as it is about strength. And now, as we stand back from the smoke and mud, we see not only destruction but clarity. The battlefield, frozen in time, teaches us that preparation and human ingenuity can bend the course of history. Thank you for journeying through Kursk with me. Witnessing this story is more than history. It is an immersion in human resilience, tactical brilliance, and the indelible consequences of war. If you found this story compelling, give it a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to continue our exploration of history's most epic battles. Next time, U-boat campaign, Kriegsmarine in the Atlantic. You won't believe what happened there.